Welcome back to the Taste Toast Travel Podcast. And today you are getting a solo episode with me because John, my lovely husband and co host of this podcast, is sick. And it is really going around lately. Our daughter was kind of sick recently too. He was sick on Christmas. He was so sad. But we really wanted to make sure we got you guys a final episode of 2025, which I cannot even believe we have now officially surpassed 1 year of the Taste Toast Travel podcast. And just the fact that we're ending a new year, starting another one, it's all very exciting. But sad he can't be here, but I still wanted to give you guys a fun little cultural deep dive into New Year celebrations around the world because truthfully, almost selfishly, and John was curious about what other cultures and other countries do to celebrate New Year's and how it differs. And we just nerd out on things like that. And if you are a lover of travel and culture and food and drink and all of the beautiful, amazing things like we are, you are going to love this episode. And again, I just love cultural deep dives like this. I think they're really fun. I think it's a great way to kind of expand your horizons and learn new things and just get out of our own bubble and out of our own culture and see what's going on globally. So I hope you guys enjoy it. The episode that we were going to record, we will still give you guys, I won't tell you exactly what that is yet, but we're just going to release it instead in January, along with more guest episodes. I'm very, very excited to start welcoming more guests on the podcast as well, so you can get an even bigger, bolder, broader worldview of things and just hear other stories. And 2026 has so much goodness in store. I am really so excited, you guys. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's talk New Year's around the world because I feel like no matter where you are, there is often this collective pause with a new year, right? Kind of reflecting on what happened in the last year, what you perhaps want to leave behind, what you're hoping for next, all the things. And in our research, some cultures celebrate very loudly, some a little more quietly, some more spiritually, many with food front and center, which we love as total foodies, and many with all of the above. So today we are traveling the world to explore how different cultures welcome the new year, what their traditions look like, and what they can teach us, I think most importantly, about intention and renewal and even luck and connection and community and all the things. And with each place I talk about, I really invite you to kind of imagine yourself in each place. As I was doing this, I was kind of doing that practice myself, sort of maybe standing in the crowded piazza with everyone or on the beach or in a temple or around a family table. And it really just kind of takes you there. That's what we love doing with you guys here on the podcast is just, again, even if you are succumb to your couch because you can't travel as much as you would like to, just evoking that sense of like what's going on out there. So I will also try and add as many visuals to this as I can. So for those who don't know, this is available also on YouTube. And we also more recently started doing Spotify video. So again, where I can, I will add some photos or little video clips just to help, again, kind of take you there, really visualize what I'm talking about and what's going on. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So again, this isn't just about what people do around the world. It's why these rituals exist and what they symbolize. So we're going to have some fun. Buckle up. First, we are traveling to Spain, and we are going to quickly chat about the 12 grapes of luck. So in Spain, if you were not aware of this, New Year's Eve centers around Las Doce Uvas de la Suerte, the 12 grapes of luck. Now, by the way, if you've been around this podcast for a minute, you guys know my pronunciation is not often 100%. It pretty much never is. So please forgive me for anything I might mispronounce here. But the idea is at midnight, as the clock strikes 12 times, people eat one grape per chime. Each grape represents a month of the coming year, and the goal is to finish them all before the last bell. Now, all of this sounds simple, I think, until you try it, because from what I have seen, right, the bell doesn't necessarily speed up, but like you're trying to eat all of these grapes back to back. I think it just becomes something that's kind of chaotic and joyful. People end up laughing, maybe even like joking a little bit. But this sounds like such a fun tradition. And it actually started in the early 1900s and has become very deeply ingrained in Spanish culture. And I think there's something really meaningful about physically, taking in your hopes for the year kind of month by month, bite by bite. And it's such a food forward way of marking time, which I think just feels very Mediterranean in the best way. And funny enough, I wanted to mention John and I went out for New Year's in Napa, California last year, and we saw no less than two or three people, one of which is actually one of our friends, who brought a bunch of grapes with them. And we're doing this, but I think it's like a new trend from what I've read and seen that people are doing this. And I think you actually technically go under the table. Please comment or DM me if you know what I'm talking about with this and or have done it or just again know what I'm talking about. But it's like a twist on this and it's calling in romance or a partner or love or something. I think this is something that's kind of been more trendy on social media or TikTok or something. But anyway, it was so funny. So I'd like vaguely heard of this tradition before. My ancestrally, I am Spanish, so I'm vaguely familiar with some of these things. I certainly can't pretend like I'm full on Spanish here. But I thought that was really just kind of a fun twist on it, and just the fact that we were actually out seeing multiple people do this just made us laugh. Again, even if in that moment it's really chaotic and funny and busy and stuff, I just love the idea behind it, kind of slowing down, being more intentional, and yeah, just thinking about the following year sort of month by month and what we want to call in. So all right, number two, we're going to Japan. And this is a little more on the quiet reflection and spiritual renewal side of things. Japan's New Year, or Shogatsu, is almost the opposite of loud fireworks and countdowns and all the things. It is actually one of the most important holidays of the year and is deeply rooted in reflection and renewal. At Buddhist temples, bells are rung 108 times, which symbolize the cleansing of 108 human desires or worldly temptations. Families gather to eat these really beautifully prepared foods packed with symbolism: black beans for health and diligence, fish roe for abundance, sweet rolled omelets for happiness, just as some examples. And homes are cleaned thoroughly beforehand. I think John and I did touch on this in an episode maybe a couple weeks ago, but these are not just tidying up, right? It is to truly clear out bad energy from the past year. And I just love this. I think there's something really grounding about starting the year from a place of calm and intention instead of a lot of chaos and noise. At least as a mom with an almost 2-year-old and a husband, I can really appreciate that. So this tradition is just really beautiful, I think, because it kind of just gently asks, like, who do I want to be entering the new year, and just entering it with as much sort of peace and calm and grounding as possible. I love that about Japanese culture. Japan is really, really high on John and I's list in this next year or two. I'm not sure when we're going to get there, but as if there is not enough beauty and amazing food and things to see that we want to explore, add this tradition on, and I love it. I'm here for it. All right, next we are going to Brazil. And in Brazil, New Year's Eve, especially in coastal cities like Rio, is very vibrant, spiritual, and deeply symbolic. Brazil is also quite high on my list, I must say. From what I understand, people dress almost entirely in white. This represents peace, purification, and fresh beginnings. And many head to the beach to honor Yemanha, the goddess of the sea. Again, I probably botched that. I'm sorry, I tried. But offerings like flowers and candles are often placed in the ocean, asking for protection and blessings in the year ahead. I love that so much. That's probably just so beautiful to witness too. And one of the most iconic traditions is jumping 7 waves, making a wish with each jump. I also love the symbolism of that because, for those who don't know, I am also a grief coach. I work heavily in the grief and loss space. And you might have heard the phrase, grief waves or waves of grief. And I just love that because I think it's so symbolic of what life does sometimes, right? It comes and goes in waves. There are peaks, there are valleys, and some waves come and completely crash over us and knock us on our butt. And sometimes they uplift us in the most incredible ways. And so I can just envision, right, jumping over those seven waves, making a wish at each one. I just think that's super powerful. So, but in these celebrations, there's also music and dancing and fireworks and reverence. And this blend of celebration and spirituality just feels incredibly empowering. And I think, especially in this case, the ocean really becomes a place of release and renewal, which feels just especially fitting for a new year. So, super beautiful. I bet that one is incredible to partake in and witness. And by the way, if you are from Brazil, if you have ever been there or done this or seen it, like please comment, DM us, tell us how that was. I'm so curious about that one. All right. We are heading to Denmark next, where we are talking about breaking plates and leaping forward. So, Denmark easily has one of the most joyfully chaotic New Year's traditions, as if the grapes were not chaotic enough, right? In a good way, I should say. People save old plates throughout the year and then throw them at the doors of friends and family on New Year's Eve. And waking up to a doorstep full of broken plates means you are loved and well supported. Danes also apparently stand on chairs and jump off of them at midnight to literally leap into a new year. So I think this is so fun. It's so playful, communal, and just again, full of symbolism. In this case, I think the celebration is a little less about personal goals and more about, friendship, connection, and that shared joy and just appreciation for one another. Not that there's, not maybe goals in there. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think there's just something really refreshing about, again, seeing a culture that sees mess and noise and sort of this chaos as a sign of love. Because I'm not going to lie, if I saw a mess of broken plates at my front door, I don't know how I'd feel about it. But in this context, I feel like I'd feel okay. So I love this one. I'd never heard of this one before. So Danes out there, again, comment, DM. I would love to hear more from you on this one. All right, next we are headed to China. Now, as I would venture most, if not all of you know, this is not new information that I'm probably telling you, their Lunar New Year does not fall on January 1st, but it is, of course, one of the most significant New Year celebrations in the world, so I couldn't not mention it. It emphasizes family, prosperity, and renewal, often spanning several days or even weeks. Homes, again, are cleaned before the new year to sweep away bad luck, but cleaning is avoided on New Year's Day to avoid sweeping good luck out. I actually did not know that, so that was a little learning curve there for me. Red decorations and hengbao, again, hoping I'm saying that right, but the very classic red envelopes that I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with symbolize wealth and protection. Firecrackers and lion dancers are meant to scare away bad spirits. And each year is associated with an animal from the Chinese zodiac, as I'm sure many of you know, which influences themes and energy for the year ahead. And I think the celebration is really beautiful because it reminds us that a new year isn't just one moment. I think, at least in America, I don't want to generalize, but it's very much like, okay, clock strikes midnight. Yeah, there's like a party that whole night, but I feel like it's just very much like that's it. It's just like kind of that one day. And then we're all in January and doing all the things and life moves on, right? And I think here, what I really love about it is it's really about a season of intention and togetherness. So I think it's really beautiful. Tell me in the comments or just DM us. I want to hear from you guys. What animal from the Chinese zodiac are you? I'm always curious about this. I always forget mine too. I'm actually literally going to have to look this up. Both John and I can never remember which we are, but I just love hearing what other people are. So, all right, just a couple more for you here. First, we are going down to Ecuador. And in Ecuador, I feel like New Year's Eve is very much about kind of letting go. And their New Year's Eve features the tradition of burning Año Viejo, old year effigies. So families and communities create these life-size figures, sometimes satirizing public figures or personal issues from the year, stuffed with paper and fireworks and dressed in old clothes. This is all from what I've read. So please, if anyone actually participates or has participated in this before, please let me know. But from what I've read, the symbolism of that is to represent cleansing, purification, and letting go of hardships and really transforming negative energy into hope for the new year. So, in terms of celebrations, streets, especially in cities like Quinto, become very lively with music and food and performers and parades featuring these really elaborate effigy displays. And in terms of rituals, people might write down their regrets and wishes to kind of tuck inside the doll, some jumping over the flames for good luck. And in case you're curious, the tradition is believed to have roots in ancient purification rites, potentially linked to a yellow fever epidemic in Guayaquil in 1895, where coffins with clothes of the deceased were burned. But in essence, I think it's just meant to be this very cathartic communal ritual of fire and renewal and a uniquely Ecuadorian way to kind of bid farewell to an old year and embrace a new one with hope. So I love that idea. Love the thought process behind that. All right. So, my very last one here for you guys actually features two countries. So, in parts of Italy and Slovenia, there is a tradition of throwing old items out the window on New Year's Eve. I'm kind of here for this. I'm not going to lie. There are definitely some things of ours I wish I could throw out the window sometimes, just get rid of it. But the symbolism here is simple but very powerful. It is just to make space for what's coming. So, of course, while modern safety rules have changed on how this looks today, I think the meaning remains. It is very much about release, decluttering, and just welcoming new opportunity. And I think it doesn't even maybe have to be literal. It can be sort of this emotional, mental, or spiritual. Whether you are quite literally throwing things out a window or not, I think this is a great time to reflect on, what we're holding on to and what maybe no longer fits into the life that you're building. And I think that's just such an awesome and very powerful and very empowering thing to reflect on, especially leaving an old year, going into a new one. But what I think is so fun about all of these countries and all of these cultures, which by the way, we clearly only scratched the surface today. I just pulled some that I thought were kind of fun and unique, or maybe you may or may not have heard much about or even witnessed or participated in yourself. But I think across all of these cultures, there's definitely some themes of, right, letting go of the past, inviting luck and abundance in, definitely gathering with community, definitely using food and even fire and water as and movement as these symbols. And even though all of these traditions might differ on paper, right? I think that human desire for renewal and sort of a fresh start is so universal. It can be felt across all of them, which I love because I think it just brings us closer as a humanity. So I encourage you, maybe borrow or adopt one of the traditions that you heard here today if it resonates. Maybe it's the grapes from Spain, or writing something down and releasing it, or cleaning more intentionally, or jumping into a new year, maybe literally or metaphorically. But I invite you to share your own New Year's traditions, or perhaps one that you have experienced while traveling, with us. DM us, email us, comment. We love hearing from you guys. We are always trying to expand our horizons. So we want to hear what you have to say too. So, that being said, thank you so much for hanging out with me in this one today. And we will see you guys in 2026.